everyone, Janie here. Welcome back to my garden. So you just saw we got a stump ground out in our backyard. We had a palm tree back here that actually our arborists, they're called American Arbor, they came when we first moved in a year ago and they took down those palm trees, and we didn't have them grind out the stump at the time because we didn't know our plans yet. Now that we have the trees, we know our plans and we know where we want to put things. Now, I don't want to put a tree directly where that palm tree used to be. I want it just to be off to the side a little bit, but I did want to get the stump ground out before we planted the October Glory maple, which is the tree that we chose for back here, before we planted that. We're not going to get around to planting that today because what we're doing is the day before we dig the holes with our auger, we are pre-soaking them with a hose. We're running a slow hose for about 30 minutes and letting it kind of sit there and letting the ground saturate. And what that's doing is it's just making it that much easier for us to come back and to dig the hole to plant the trees. So I just wanted to show you that because the arborist was here today. They are great. I always learn something new when I talk to them, so it's fantastic. They'll probably be back a couple times over the next month or so, and they're ready for it. So I'll put Matthew's contact information in the description down below if you guys are local and need an arborist. So this is where the palm tree stump was. There was actually another one, but it's actually in that garden bed. So I'm just letting it to kind of disintegrate on its own because it's a palm tree, or it was a palm tree. It's gonna disintegrate pretty quickly, like over a year or two. But I don't want to put the October Glory maple right there. What I want to do is I actually want to put it over here a little bit. And what I'm doing back here is I'm going by like the shade tree. I want a shade tree. And what a shade tree is it's a deciduous tree. So that means during the summer when it's hot and you want shade, the tree has leaves and it's beautiful and you're going to enjoy it. But during the winter, when it's colder and you don't want as much shade, it loses all its leaves. So you get the best of both worlds. And so there are certain trees that are really good for shade trees. Maples are really good, and then Chinese pistachios are really good as well. I didn't want to do a second one of those right here, so I thought having the maple and then the Chinese pistache right there would be really, really pretty. So we are going to be putting the October Glory maple about right here. So we're going to put a hose on it today and then let it sit overnight. And then I have a Podocarpus that I'm going to be putting right here, kind of just past the metal fence a little bit. And that's just going to kind of cap the end of this metal fence and make it look more like it belongs there. And that one is called Roman Candle Podocarpus. It's a variegated Podocarpus, which I'm really excited about because I didn't even know that they made variegated Podocarpus. So here's our tree stash that we're slowly working through and planting everything. What Jason and I are working on today, which is kind of a big job, but I'm excited to get it done, is we are going to be planting these Podocarpus right here. So these are Podocarpus gracilior. These are the classic Podocarpus or fern pine. I love this tree. I love this tree. Every time I see it, I think, oh, that's such a nice tree. I really, really like it. And it's one that Michael Glassman, the landscape designer, who's my friend, he highly, highly recommends this tree. And one of the cool things about this one is you can plant it on basically on your property line. And instead of it being like huge and kind of taking over and running into your neighbor's side of the yard way too much, what you can do, this tree is really, really good for pruning. And so you can prune it basically however you want. You can prune it into a column, or you can prune it into kind of like a flat kind of wall, kind of blockade, which is what we're going to use it for. You can espalier it. There's so many cool things that you can do with this because it just takes to pruning so well. So you can kind of see the difference. This is the Roman Candle, the variegated version that's going in the back by the metal screens. Excuse me. And this is the regular one right here. So we are going to be planting these. We have already gone through and marked where we want them. So you can see the white flags right there. And then I don't know if you can see, but we did pre-moisten everything. We, of put a slow running hose there and let it sit there yesterday. So it's been sitting there all night and it should be relatively easy to plant. Now, we are going to have to move some of these. This is my bobo hydrangeas that they're just so unhappy. Let's just pretend like we don't see them, but it's gonna go right there. So we'll take out the bobos. So we're gonna do a grouping of 3 on this side of the neighbor's almond tree right there. And then we're gonna do another grouping of 3 over on this side. And you kind of look at it and you think, oh, that's kind of tight. There's not a lot of space, but that's why the Podocarpus is so great. It can fit into these small spaces. It's going to be 30, 40 feet tall, and it's going to be able to handle, like, you can kind of just fit it right in to your landscape. If you go back and you take a look at tours that I've done at Michael Glassman's house, he has them along his neighbor's fence, and he lives in a neighborhood, so he has a much smaller property and a much smaller kind of property line, and he has a whole row of these cool trees in between his property and his neighbor's property, and it looks incredible. So the other 3 trees are going over here in the orchard garden, and I am really excited because you can see right between my Esperanza and my orange tree, we have a gap, and that is where one is going. And then I'm going to put a second one in the gap in between the 2 orange trees, which isn't totally necessary, but I thought it would even it out and kind of cover this area. So there's one that's going to go right there. And then the third one, we actually still have the hose on for one final soak. The third one is going to go right here. So hopefully as they get big and grow up and kind of spread out, this whole area is going to be green, which I just think it's going to look so good. Okay, so we're going to get started in the long border right here. If you guys see this truck in the background, that is actually my dad's truck, and he's just storing it here. He had to go on a trip, and we're very close to the airport, so that's why it's here. Did I get that on camera? Margie, get out of my plants. Come on. Margie, he literally has his head in between your legs. Okay, so we almost finished. We got 6 of the 9 trees planted. We got all 6 in the long border planted up. I think that they look good. We do have to move one of them. I'll show you all in a second. But we ran out of time. This just took a little bit longer than I imagined. Of course, as with everything, but that's okay. We've gotten a good chunk of it done, and you can see it right here. We've got these 3 planted. Then coming over here, we've got these 3 planted. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, and I don't know if you can tell where I'm standing. They're not evenly spaced, which is so frustrating. So these 2 look great, but this one's over off to the left about a foot further than it should have been. And I don't know what happened. The white flag must have got moved over, or I have no idea. So we're going to have to come back in and we're going to have to fix it. But this took a little bit longer than we thought just because of the soil and this long border. And we were trying to dig holes, you know, wide enough so that they had plenty of backfill and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, it's my fault. I shouldn't have planned to plant 9 trees in one day. So we got 6 trees in. Well, I should say 5 trees in. We do have to move that tree. And then we have 3 more trees over there that we still have to put in the long border. So this is kind of a 75% done project. But my muscle had to go and take the girls to soccer practice. So this is kind of where we're at. As for the stats for this tree, just to remind you all, they grow about a foot a year, which is a good growth rate, right? It's pretty quick. And they will get up to 30 to 40 feet and about 15 to 20 feet wide. But the coolest thing, the best thing about this tree is that it can be pruned so well. Like, it takes to pruning so well. Basically, if you wanted a hedge of Podocarpus and you wanted to not be able to see through it, the recommendation is to plant them 3 feet apart, which is absolutely crazy for such a big tree, but that just goes to show how good they are or how much they can handle pruning. So I obviously didn't do 3 feet apart, but I did close, and you can see they're close to my other trees, but they're going to be perfect because I can just prune them to exactly how I want them to be, exactly how wide I want them to be. And then it's going to mask out on my neighbor's roof and everything like that, which is the whole point. Now, the one drawback to Podocarpus, it's not a drawback for me, is that it's only hardy zones 9 through 11. So for those of you in cooler zones, I'm so sorry, this tree isn't going to work for you. But think of this tree as warmer zones conifers, right? It's an evergreen. It doesn't have much issues. It's beautiful. It can take to pruning so very well. And it's just such an important tree for those of us in warmer zones, which is why I just had to have it. Plus, I love how it looks. I think it's one of the prettiest trees. It doesn't get that much pest pressure. It's not messy, and it has beautiful foliage all year round. So just imagine in a couple years, once these guys start to grow up, it's going to be really beautiful, and I'm so excited to be able to start getting these trees in the ground. It's going to take a little bit longer than I thought because these are big jobs. Jason was like, "Did you really think we were going to get 9 trees in today?" Yes, yes, I did, and I was wrong. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you all have a chance to get in your garden today.